Well, good morning, happy gardeners. This is Ed Froelich, and you're watching The First Time Gardener. So today's episode, in this video, we are going to do and start part 2 of our virgin ground soil, preparing for our first time grow season. And the plot that I'm standing in here right now, we have put a video up, and I'll link it in the description below. You need to go watch that one first before you watch this one if you haven't already seen it. But where we take a piece of grass area that we are going to expand our garden, and we take the grass up and we prep the soil for the first time, amending it because it's all clay and sand. So today we are going to do our second part in preparing the soil for our spring planting, which is going to be sweet corn. So since our last video, which was part 1 of expanding our garden, we have put in buckwheat seed, which you can see behind me is growing. We've let the buckwheat go to seed, and I've harvested the seed twice because I'm saving the seeds for our spring garden, because I want to plant a bunch of flowers and blooming plants to attract the butterflies and the bees. So since our last video, I've raked leaves and put them in here. Plus we've been growing this buckwheat, and today, before I turn this in, I'm going to get a rake and I'm going to rake up some more leaves around the yard, and I'm going to pile these in here, and then I'm going to take the lawnmower and I'm going to mow all this down, and I want to chop it up as fine as I can with the mower. That's why I'm going to use the lawnmower, because I want this to start to breaking down to get it as ready as it can be for our spring garden. Now today is December 29th, and it's cold out this morning. As you can see, I'm kind of bundled up. So we are preparing this hopefully to start by the end of February, maybe mid-March. We're going to plant our seeds. So we're taking this video up into the point where we put our seeds in the ground for our sweet corn. So I'm going to go rake up some leaves, put some leaves on here, and we're going to come back with the lawnmower and show you how we finish this out and turn it in and get it ready for the next part of the amendment right before we hit our spring growing season. So stick around. Let me grab some leaves, put them on here, and then we'll be back with you. Okay guys, so I'm still going to be raking some more. I'm going to take these leaves, I'm going to pile them up on top of the buckwheat. Okay guys, so you've seen me rake up the leaves in the yard. I've got all kinds of little twigs and pieces of bark and stuff that came up too. We put all that in there. Now we're going to get the lawnmower out here. We're going to go over this whole section, chop it up good. And again, the reason I chop it up is because it will decay a lot quicker if it's chopped up in smaller pieces than just leaving it whole leaves. We're going to let this sit until the end of January or 1st of February, which then we're going to do a heavy amendment with topsoil, peat moss. I'm going to do some compost from my compost pile, and then we're going to do black cow manure, and we're going to turn all that in. And that's going to be a real heavy amendment. That's going to be our last amendment we're going to do before we plant our corn. So stick around. I'm going to go get the mower and chop this down, and then we're going to get the tiller and till it in, and then we're going to rake it smooth, and we're just going to let this sit for another month. That simple. We got it all mowed down. I'm just going to rake in the edges where it might have blown a little bit there. And then we're going to get our tiller and we're going to till this in, rake it out smooth, and then it's going to sit here for about 6 weeks. All right, let me go get the tiller and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay guys, we're going to till this in now. So just to bring you up a little bit of reference, the buckwheat that was growing, that's going to put nitrogen into the soil with a greenery, and then the browns, which is a carbon, we've got some leaves, some twigs, and that sort of stuff. That's going to put the carbon in the ground. And then, like I said, our next amendment is going to be a heavy amendment. We're going to do a lot of amending to get ready for our spring planting of our corn. So let me get this turned in real quick. All right guys, that does it one way. Now we're going to cross till it the other way. All right guys, so we got it tilled in. My last thing I'm going to do is just rake it smooth. I'm going to let this sit in the soil. It's cold out, so it's not going to decompose as fast as it would like in the summer when the soil is hot. But we're just going to let it go in there. We'll hit it with, if we don't get any rain, we'll hit it with some water every once in a while to help that decomposition. And then the leaves have not all fallen off of our trees yet. So between now and in 6 weeks, when we amend the soil heavy, I'm going to keep raking up the leaves and putting them on here. And we're going to turn them in to the ground again before we put the amendment on top of that. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you stuck to the end. If it's any help to you, or if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section. I will link the first part when we tore out the ground and prepared it for the first time. I'll put that link in the description below. You probably want to watch that first before you watch this video. Okay guys, we will be back in about 6 weeks and show you the last prep that we're going to do to this spot before we plant our corn. Well, good morning, happy gardeners. This is Ed Froelich coming back with you from the First Time Gardener again. So today I'm excited. We are going to do our heavy amending of our new garden expansion that you've seen before, where we took out our grass, expanded our area. We've already amended it slightly twice. So this is going to be our last heavy amendment before we start planting our corn. What we have is we have some compost that we're going to put in and spread out, and that's going to be to put just an organic matter into the soil, because this soil here is kind of like a 50-50 clay and sand mix. So we want to break up the clay because we don't want a deep amount of clay in the soil, so we have a good root growth. And then on top of that, the sand, what the sand does is it makes the water just run right through. So we want to amend it so that we have, one, nutritional value going to our corn, and two, we want something in the garden to retain the moisture so that it doesn't dry out, because you don't want this corn to be stressed on being dry and then wet and then dry. So what we're going to put in is peat moss, and that's going to help that part of the situation hold the moisture in. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to spread out the compost all over the garden, and then I'm going to put the peat moss on top of that, and then we are going to turn that in before I put in the compost of the black cow, which is the manure part of it. And then we're also going to amend it with some bone meal that will slowly dissolve into the ground and allow the plants to pick up that phosphorus so that the root development gets good before the stalk starts to get big. Okay guys, so we took care of the compost. Right now we've got it dumped out, and we're going to rake it smooth now, try to keep it 1.5 to 2 inches over this whole entire area, and then peat moss is next. So we just want to spread it out, try to make it even. Now, I'm going to leave about a foot walkway between here so that I can get back and forth and work both beds. This bed that's behind us, as I said, that's going to be our secondary corn that we're going to plant that in about a month from now. All right guys, so that's spread out even. Now we're going to dump the peat moss on there and spread that out. And we don't need a lot of peat moss. We got a whole brick of peat moss here. I think it's if it's a 40 pound, it's 3 cubic foot. So we're going to put about a cubic foot, maybe a little bit more over here, turn it in. It's just to help hold the moisture. Almost 2 cubic yards spread out. The other cubic yard I'm saving because I want to make a soil mix, because I have a lot of planting I got to do later on in the day. So anyway, we'll get this all spread out even. Make sure you get all the big clumps and stuff knocked down. Like I said, you only want a thin layer of this. It doesn't have to be thick. Maybe 1 inch at the most is all you need. Again, this is just to hold moisture. It has no nutritional value at all. But it definitely helps the garden when it comes to not having to water it that often. All right guys, we got that pretty well level. So I'm going to get my tiller and we're going to till this in before we put the black cow on there. guys, simple work. That part's done. Now we're just going to level it out and get the black cow. Okay guys, we got our black cow. Now this is the first time we're growing in this garden expansion, so we are heavily amending it. But next time, maybe in the fall, if you're going to grow something different in here or whatever, you won't have to do as much amending. Probably don't need the peat moss anymore. Probably just black cow and some bone meal or fertilizer, depending on what you're going to grow. Okay guys, now all we got to do is level it out. Okay guys, got that leveled. I'm gonna go get some 10-10-10 to put in here before we turn it in. So I'll be right back. Okay guys, we're gonna put some bone meal down on top of the cow before I do the 10-10-10, and then we're gonna turn it in. Get out of there. Sass, get out. Then we're going to do a little bit of 10-10-10. Now this is a synthetic fertilizer. It's slow time released, so it should feed pretty much for the next couple months. And it'll give some nutritional value for the corn to grow in there. And always mix it in. You don't want to ever put it right on the seeds that you're planting, because it will burn the seeds. It'll be too strong. Okay, so that's it. So before I go any further, I want to give you guys a tip when you're growing corn. If at all possible, in the area that you're growing it in, you want to make sure that you try to grow it in a square, or at least 4 or 5 rows wide by however long, 10 foot, 8 foot long, whatever room you have. You're going to have a very poor yield if you put a seed in one long single row. And the reason being is because you have a male and a female part. The pollination reacts from the corn stalk itself. It doesn't have to have bees to pollinate. So what happens is when the corn grows and the stalk comes up, the very top of the stalk, they have a thing called a tassel. The tassel is what has the pollinating little units in those little seeds. And as it gets ripe, they're going to open, and when the wind blows, the wind is going to shake the pollen and it's going to fall down. Now meanwhile, before the tassels get mature, you're going to have a corn ear growing from your stem, and it's going to have these silks that come out. Well, the silks, if you look on the end of the corn, every one of those silks, you know, there's like 1,000 silks that come out. Every one of those silks go back to one kernel of corn. So it's important that the pollen from the seed pods that are on the tassels are able to fall down and hit those silk pieces in order for your corn to mature and pollinate, so that each one of your kernels gets pollinated to grow. Because if it doesn't, what happens, like when you peel back the corn husks, you're going to see there might be an area, and that is because those silks did not get pollinated. So that's why it's important to grow it in a square if you can. That way, when the wind blows the tassels, if it blows this way, it's hitting some of the corn over there. Or if it grows this way, blows this way, it's going to pollinate the corn ears there. Or if there's no wind and it just kind of shakes, it'll go down. So, and the problem with growing it in one line, when those tassels come up, if the wind's coming and blows it over, all that pollen just goes out in the yard. It doesn't come down and pollinate your corn. So that's the reason, and the importance of trying to do it in a square or a bunch, just not one straight line. There's your tip for the day. All right, we got everything ready. We're going to till this in again. All right, guys, that's the last of our tilling. Now we're going to get our hard rake. We're going to level it off as smooth as we can, and it's important, try not to get puddles and stuff. You want it as flat as you can, so when you water it, everything gets watered and goes into the ground at the same time, and we don't end up with a valley where it gets puddled, where it could rot the seeds, or 1 or 2 seeds that's in that area. So just try to get it as flat and as level as you can. And that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to talk a little bit about corn and how I go about planting it. So we have our corn. It's called Peaches and Cream Sweet Corn. It's from Haas Seeds or Haas Tools. It says to plant after the last frost, which we should have one more frost, but I think these are going to be, we're going to get it before these actually get too big. So I'm pretty much not worried. I'm doing the same thing I did last year. This is the end of January, January 27th. I think we get possibly another hard frost or freeze the end of February, but I think we're going to be okay with this. I did this last year and it worked good, but just for your sake, make sure you plant it at least after your last frost date. just to make sure you're successful. The planting depth is 1 inch. The seed spacing is 6 to 8 inches apart. The row spacing, they ask for 36 inches. I don't have that much room here where I'm planting it, so I'm going to go on 12-inch intervals between everything each way. And then it takes, the maturity is 80 days it takes for maturity. Now that could vary depending on how cold it is. You know, the soils right now, they're probably in the high 60s, low 70s. We've had a week of fairly decent weather, warm weather, so the soils aren't that cold, but that could fluctuate how fast the seeds germinate and how long it is until you harvest. So it could go either way by a few days or a week. All right, and make sure that you have, this is packed for 2024, which is what we're in, so make sure your seeds aren't old. I have a packet of seeds that I grew last year, and I bought 2 packets, and the corn was really super good. I couldn't find a 2024 of the same brand. That's why I'm trying the Haas ones. They were recommended, this brand. The Peaches and Cream said it's supposed to be pretty sweet, so I'm trying that. I was afraid to try the old ones because I was afraid they wouldn't germinate. Anyway, so I decided to grow this year. Okay, so that's about the seeds. Now, next is, I like to put mine on, like I said, 12-inch intervals. And what I have here, is a conduit pipe. It's 1/2-inch conduit pipe. And what I did is I measured, and I have a mark from a permanent marker that I put on the pipe every 12 inches. So this serves kind of as two purposes. When I lay this in the ground, I step on it, and it makes a little ditch the width of this here, and you can step on it, and as it goes down, it'll be almost the perfect depth you need to plant the seed. So and then I use these intervals to plant the seed, so they're 12 inches apart. Like I said, I just don't have the room to do what the package says. I did this last year and it worked perfectly fine. I'm going to show you a little trick though later on down in the growing season, when it comes just before the tassels get ripe and it drops the pollen. I'm going to show you a trick I'm going to do this year to help the pollination. But anyway, so while I'm laying out this, I like nice straight rows. So what I do is I mark the ends, this end and the farthest end, and where these marks are, I just get these cheap 10 stakes from Walmart. You can get, I think it's like $3.95, you get a bag of 10. And I put this at the end of the row on this end, and I do the same on the other end, and then I pull a string, and that's where I plant. That's where I put my pipe underneath the string. That way, once they start growing up, you got a nice straight row. And I'll show you that, how we do that on the ground. But anyway, that's my process of, sorry for the motorcycles. Anyway, that's my process of planting the corn. So let me take you down there, and I'm gonna show you how I lay this out. I put my tube down here. I put the end of the pipe where I want my first row to be, and like I said, I'm leaving a 12-inch space here, so a walkway. So I want to make sure that I get it in the dirt in a way there. So I pick my stake and I put it in where I want my first row to be. And you can push it in by hand. And then I just lay this so it's nice and straight. And then every 12 inches that's marked on the pipe, I'm going to put one of these. And I'm going to go down there, and then I'm going to go down on the other end and do the same thing, and then I'm going to pull a string from here to there. And that's what I'm going to use. Okay, we're going to get ready to string the string. I just wanted to show you what I use. That's a Mason's thing you can get at, you can get this at Lowe's, and then just get Mason twine Works really good. This way you can just roll it back up. My handle broke. There's a little handle that you go on there. So we'll use this to pull on our tent stakes. And then also, don't forget, make your little tag on the day that you plant the corn so you can keep track of how many days it's in there. And then on the back I write the 80 days to harvest, from seed to harvest. Okay, let's go down and I'll show you how I pull a string. All right guys, you just pull it out like this here. Pull a string. Oh shoot, what went off there? All right. Just don't pull it too tight. All right, good, because I'm going to move it from one to the other. All right, then I take my pipe and I'm going to put a little trench right underneath the string. That'll keep my lines nice and straight. Just kind of level your soil out. Okay guys, here's just want to show you the seeds. Those are the corn seeds. So we're just going to take and we're going to put, I'm going to follow the marks on my pipe. That's 12-inch intervals, and we're going to put one of these kernels every 12 inches. And then they're right underneath the string, so it's going to make a nice straight line for you when they come up. And the straight line will do a couple things. When they all come up and they're nice and straight, you'll know that's not a weed, because the weeds might start coming back before you actually get the corn to come up. And that way you'll know. And remember, it's about 1 inch deep. You want them. And just slide your pipe down. Put your mark on the last one you put in there and just keep them going. You just want to tap them down, make sure they're covered with dirt good. And then we're going to water this in really well. All right, and we're going to take the string off this and move it to the next one. We're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole garden, and going to do it just like I did the first one. Actually, I'll probably do just one more just to show you guys, and then I'm just going to finish the rest of the garden. And every row is going to be done the same way. So let me take the string off and move it over one. Just move it over to your next one. All right, and the same thing. You want to kind of level out the dirt a little bit there so your string does not touch the ground. and use your stick as a marker, 12-inch intervals. Now, if you don't have a conduit pipe, you can just use a piece of wood. Anything to make a marker. Mark it as, if you want 18 inches, mark it at 18 inches, 16 inches, whatever you're comfortable with. I don't have a large area to plant the corn, so I do it 12 inches is probably the minimum. I mean, 12 inches would be the minimum. I would put them together. 12 inches and on up, whatever you feel comfortable with. All right, get the kernels of corn. Again, we can plant them right underneath the string. We'll have a nice straight line. All right, guys, so that's it, 2 rows done. We're probably going to get 4, 8, 9, 10, probably get between 10 and 11 rows total in this new plot that we have. So anyway, we're going to finish this up. We are all planted. We have planted 9 rows with 10 seeds in each row, so we've got 90 plants. And if it's true to what we did last year, we got most of the stalks, we got 2 ears per stalk. So that's about 180 ears if they all come up and they all have 2 stalks. So it'd be plenty. And then of course we'll have our second area growing in, we'll plant that probably in about 6 weeks. So thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to our channel, and by all means, be safe, God bless, and we'll see you on the next one. Happy gardening.